Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the informational webinar for the Standards and Quality Assurance Solicitation RFQL 5158. My name is Amy Casamuzio, and I'm the Program Manager for the Standards and Quality Assurance team. Including myself, the panelists are David Houle, Senior Project Manager, and Andrew Van Gorder, Senior Project Manager from the SQA team. Joining us this morning is Brian Cabasis, Program Manager for the Multifamily Residential Program, and Matt Houle, Project Manager for the Single Family Residential team. Before we get into the presentation, I have a few housekeeping items. Please note that this webinar will be recorded. We will try to have the recording available as soon as possible, but with it being a holiday week, it may take upwards of a week to be posted. Please use the Q&A feature to ask any and all questions. We will be monitoring the chat and QA during this webinar and will respond throughout. If several questions come in at once, we have time reserved towards the end of this webinar to answer them. If anyone has questions after the webinar has ended, please reach out to the email box specifically created for the solicitation RFQL 5158 SQA at nycerta.ny.gov. All questions with corresponding answers from this webinar will be also posted under the solicitation on the NYSERDA funding webpage. So let's get into the solicitation overview. The New York State Energy Research and Development Authority seeks to establish a pool of qualified service providers to develop and implement quality initiatives in support of several NYSERDA programs and clean energy technologies. Qualified proposers will work with NYSERDA Standards and Quality Assurance team to conduct field inspection and desk review services, implement existing and upcoming standards, technical, installation, data, and quality standards, and deliver market-based quality assurance solution. RFQL 5158 will establish a group of qualified service providers, or QSPs. Under Service Category 1, Field Inspection and Desk Review Services, and Category 2, Technical Assistance and Standard Development Support Services. We will discuss these at length in a moment. This table, which is also in the solicitation, indicates the technology areas alongside of the service category needed. For example, to read this table, under single-family residential, the Empower Plus technology will need Service Category 1, Field Inspection, Photo Inspection, and Desk Review Services, as well as Category 2, Technical Assistance and Standards Development Support. Whereas lower on the table, you see the Heat Pump Demo, NYSERDA Retrofit, Electrification Pilot will only need Category 2. Technical assistance, and standard development support. We will go over some general eligibility requirements. We would like proposers to have an understanding of goals and objectives of the CLCPA, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, as well as the Clean Energy Fund and NYSERDA's mission. We would like the QSPs to have exceptional communication skills and ability to manage conflict. We would also like the QSPs to demonstrate expertise in the appropriate energy efficiency and renewable energy technologies in the solicitation. And we would really love the QSPs to have computer software proficiency in MS Excel, MS Access, MS PowerPoint, and MS Words. I will now hand it over to David and Andrew to discuss the solicitation more in depth.
Thank you, Amy. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to briefly describe the Category 1 field and desk reviews. Next slide, please. So the field inspections, the standard field inspection activities include scheduling the inspection with the homeowner that had the work done in their home or their apartment, if it's a multifamily program. We would upload the information to the NYSERDA's database or Excel spreadsheet or other platform that will be used for each specific program. Document the field inspection data, generate an inspection report, and respond to corrective action reports. So when non-conformances are identified and contractors might contest certain inspection findings, you would review those and provide feedback on those issues. Next slide, please. Desk reviews is very similar. There's no field inspection. You simply would request photos for a specific project from the installing contractor. Once you had the project data, you would review it and look for any nonconformances within the photos provided for that project. You would issue a report, and then again, you have the same process where you would review corrective actions if the contractor was to contest any of those items. So for the single family residential program, the minimum required professional credentials required is the BPI building analyst or BPI energy auditor credential, the envelope professional, and the air conditioning and heat pump professional. And now Drew will discuss multifamily.
Thank you, David. So for multifamily building programs, the minimum qualification for staff include: first, required staff qualifications, 3 or more years of combined experience installing, designing, and or inspecting air source heat pump systems. And additionally, staff must have 2 or more of the following professional credentials: be a professional engineer, be a certified verifier, be a certified rater, AEE certified energy manager, AEE certified energy auditor, BPI multifamily building analyst, NATE certified HVAC, passive house certifier. Okay, and then we're on the slide 11, field inspections regional map. 1 second, please. So for category 1 field inspections, as well as photo and desk review inspections, proposing companies should place bids for 1 or more regions as depicted on this map. Basically everything north of Westchester County is region 1. Everything Westchester and south is region 2. And as you can see on the bid and rate sheet, proposing companies can also bid or encouraged to bid statewide if should you have coverage for both region 1 and region 2. Next slide, please. The data systems that the qualified service providers will be using to document inspection results and to produce the subsequent reports are varied depending on the program area. For the Empower Plus program, we have a QA module in Salesforce, which manages everything from identifying projects that are eligible to be inspected, to scheduling inspections, to notifying customers and contractors of scheduled inspections, to documenting the inspection results, as well as uploading associated photos of those results. The Salesforce module will also produce a professional report and then issue that report upon the QSB's QA manager's approval. The QA module is also used for any corrective action resolution, disputes, or just standard submitting photo documentation from the contractor when they resolve, one or more items that were identified in the system. So for that program, it's an all-inclusive sort of management from start to finish of the QA process. The other programs identified: Comfort Home Pilot, the Multifamily Performance Program, and the Low Carbon Pathways Program. NYSERDA has contracted with a company called Site Capture, which is a third party that enables inspectors to, again, document the full inspection results, whether that be field or desk review inspections, and to produce, again, a professional report. It's a little less comprehensive in that some of the scheduling and email capabilities are done outside of the system. But again, it does allow inspectors to document the full inspection results and produce a report for the contractor/installer. Next slide, please. Actually, we have one question. That's the end of category 1 slides. And we do have one question with respect to category 1. And I'll just take a minute here to read that question, as well as do my best to answer it. Someone asked, are photo review and desk review one of the same? Could you please expand upon the scope of each of these items? So in the case of the multifamily performance program, we have an established process to complete desk review inspections, which in that case actually include a combination of provider submitted documents, which could include both photos, or will include both photos of the installation, as well as other documents that do not include photos. So cut sheets of the measures installed and other program required documents. That is an established process in the multifamily performance program. At the moment, the single family residential program does not have a desk review inspection. But for example, in NYSERDA's New York Sun program, which is not included in the solicitation, we do have a photo review inspection, which includes, which inspectors solely base inspection results on photos, specific photos requested and submitted by contractors. So I guess that would be the distinction. Sometimes you only have photos to go off of to determine your inspection results, and other times there are other program required documents that may not include photos. In both cases, inspections are completed at one's desk and not in the field. There's a, and I don't know, there's a second question about is any energy modeling or model review required?
Currently in our programs, we do not have any energy modeling required or review of modeling. In the future, as some new program pilots come up, that might be requested service, but it's not required at this point in time.
Yeah, I can jump in there too for multifamily if that's worthwhile. our projects don't necessarily require modeling. And for MPP, for instance, or for LCP, unless they go over a certain percentage of savings. So it's going to save 40%. They do have to do an energy model. That wouldn't really be required for category 1 for these inspections. But on the technical assistance piece, that would be helpful and valuable if you have the qualifications to review energy models and provide energy modeling support. But not as significant of a need for category 1, but it would be helpful for category 2.
Thank you, Brian. There's also another question that came up.
Okay, so this question is the desire to utilize contractors as opposed to consulting engineers for category 1 services? Is there an ability to perform multifamily or single family services only? So, as far as proposers, we're looking for proposers that have the qualifications for service category 1 and service category 2. They are separate. So you can propose to provide category 1 services for single family residential or multifamily. You don't have to do both. You don't have to propose for both categories, or you don't have to propose for all the programs under each category. We prefer to have proposers that can cover all services within each category for each technology type. But if you're only qualified or interested in providing services for the perhaps like the HPD NYSERDA electrification pilot, you can propose just to provide services for that one only. And I think that covers that question.
Thank you for all these questions. They're really great.
The next category is category 2, technical assistance and standards development support services. Next slide, please. And the minimum qualifications NYSERDA requires for this category is for potential proposers to demonstrate they can have successful implementation of quality assurance methodology, technical and installation standards to build customer and investor confidence, replicate market-based quality strategies to achieve goals of the CLCPA and CEF, proven involvement with the industry, regional and national stakeholders, and consumers to achieve quality goals, researching and recommending the application of existing standards and quality methods to help accelerate market adoption of energy efficiency and renewable energy technologies, and have an understanding of the needs of prospective consumers, implementing standards for the design, installation, and operation of clean energy technologies. Technical assistance and standards development support services continued. The broad areas of proposer qualifications include quality methods, market-based QA strategies, technical standards, installation standards, workforce certification and company accreditation, research, program development and improvement, and industry best practices. Thank you. And I'll pass over to David.
Okay, now we'll briefly go over the contractual agreement and task work orders. Next slide, please. So all qualified proposers, excuse me, will enter into a $0 contract or umbrella agreement for the technology area and service areas in which you have been qualified. The umbrella agreement will not guarantee any specific amount of work, and it will be for a 5-year term contract. Once the umbrella agreement is in place, then we can quickly work with qualified providers, next slide, please, through task work orders. We'll provide a task work order for services to be provided that you have been qualified for. And those will be the binding agreements between NYSERDA and the contractor that have all specific work for each program area that you are going to be providing services for. Service category 1, the task work orders are assigned regionally or statewide by technology area and will be assigned or competitively bid within the pool of qualified contractors depending on contract value. For service category 2, task work orders will be assigned or competitively bid within the pool of the qualified contractors. Next slide, please. I'll briefly go over the proposal requirements and how they will be evaluated. Next slide. So here are the basic proposal sections that we would like to see. It's outlined in the solicitation. We also have page limits that we would like you to adhere to. If you're over a page or two, that would be okay, but we would like you to adhere to the page limits. If you have additional resumes for all your resumes, they can be in an appendix and won't count towards the page counts. So we would just like you to be, clear and concise on your qualifications and all questions asked in the solicitation, by keeping it short and concise. Be appreciated. Next slide, please. The proposals will be evaluated. Will be reviewed by a scoring committee. The scoring items are listed for each category in the solicitation. That matrix will be used to evaluate all proposals, and the scoring committee individually will score the proposals, and we'll have a conference and review the scores, and we'll go over those scores, and you'll assign a score for each proposal and proposer. The scoring committee will be internal NYSERDA staff members and external industry experts for the relative technology areas. Slide, please. So the proposals will be evaluated based on the category as mentioned earlier. We're looking for responsiveness, for ability to serve New York State. It is especially important for service category 1 field inspections. We need to have proposers that have inspectors located throughout the state who can cost effectively go and inspect work done and generate the reports. And of course, all the support services that go along with that. Experience and qualifications and any references would be wonderful. And category 2, pretty much the same evaluation. Ability to serve New York State, you don't necessarily have to have offices throughout the state, but be able to cost effectively serve any area in New York State for any task work order that's entered into. Next slide, please. Okay, well, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. The contact email is also in the solicitation. And I don't know if any further questions have come in yet.
And if you're reading through this solicitation and you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to that email. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. That email again is rfql5158sqa@nyserda.ny.gov. We'll just wait a couple of minutes and see if any other additional questions come in.
Amy, I just wanted to jump in. This is Brian. I received a question asking if active MPP or a MEP or LCP providers could participate as these QCI providers, and they were just concerned about that being construed as a conflict. Um, I think if we are able to select two candidates for a particular category, we can avoid that conflict so that if they do have an active project, that review of that project, either in category 1 or in category 2, that could be um, serviced by another provider. So I think we can avoid that being a conflict of interest if we have that structure. So I don't want to dissuade those folks from also submitting an application or a proposal rather. But would
Yeah,
sense
that
good
is
to you?
great. Yeah, that's a great point, Brian. We will look very holistically at all proposals that come in for this solicitation. Well, we don't see any further questions coming in. So I appreciate everyone's time and attention to the solicitation. Again, if you have any questions, just 1 second. We just have something coming in. Give us 1 moment. We just received questions. Since they were sent privately, we're trying to distribute them through the group right now. So please, thank you for your patience. We'll be right with you. Okay, so a question that has come in, we'll try to answer everyone's questions. HPD NYSERDA retrofit electrification pilot is described in Appendix 2, technology descriptions, but there are no estimates for QA production in that program included in Appendix 1. Does NYSERDA anticipate QA activity for the HPD NYSERDA retrofit electrification pilot? And if so, can you please provide those estimates?
Yeah, so this is Andrew. I will I'll answer that, and then Brian Cabezas can supplement my answer if needed, but that within the technology appendix area, that may be an error in the word pilot. We have under category 2, HBD NYSERDA retrofit electrification pilot, which we will only require category 2 services. There will be no, at this time, field inspections or desk reviews for that pilot. Under category 1, but included within the multifamily performance program, MPP projects may include heat pump measures under the heat pump demonstration study, which is a distinct program/pilot program area from the pilot that I just described. There are no estimates provided with respect to how many of the MPP projects have heat pumps installed, but the expectation or the requirement is the cost to inspect those heat pump is inclusive of your all-in bid costs for an MPP inspection. Brian, please correct me or add any additional information if needed.
Yeah, you're right on all those points. Yeah, maybe I'll just add some more color. So for MPP, since I'll just start with that one since you just mentioned it. We have about 170 active projects still, which are all still going through the process. So a good chunk of that will go through these inspections. Of those that have the heat pump demonstration study, which is a subpart of MPP, we have about 25 projects that will have heat pumps installed. So that'll probably be the full universe of MPP projects that would have heat pumps. The HPD electrification pilot is a distinct, or retrofit electrification pilot is a distinct program. It is essentially like a co-sponsored program between NYSERDA and the New York City Housing Preservation and Development. It's adding on to their existing preservation program, really to augment that program to have this more retrofit electrification focus. And so don't quite have the full picture of how many projects we expect there. I think that's still being worked out. That pilot was recently launched just not quite a year ago. That would only need category 2, the technical assistance. That program already does have a technical assistance provider that is working with the energy consultants that are working on that project to develop that scope of work. So it's a much more hands-on program than our other multifamily programs. So the technical assistance provider is developing that scope of work in conjunction with the building owner and their provider. So we don't need the inspections to be done because that technical assistance provider would be doing that work. We really would just need that the category 2, which offers technical assistance but also supportive services, which is what that program could still use and could still benefit from. I hope that helps answer the question a bit more.
Yeah, thank you for that added information, Brian.
Yep.
So another question came in.
Okay. Second question is, in attachment C, scope of work, task 2 deliverables. The last bullet references photo documentation of all installed measures uploaded to SharePoint. If the successful bidder's QA report is inclusive of all photos, can the uploaded report also serve as the photo documentation to avoid duplicate entry? So fortunately, I've never seen on the inspection reports, only non-conformances are documented. So if there's 5 work scope items that were installed and 4 were installed to minimum program standards, and the 5th one wasn't, the only photo documentation on the inspection report would be that one non-conformance photos. So inspection photos of all installed measures, whether they are, meet program standards or a non-conformance is identified, do need to be uploaded to the SharePoint. The report format is such that we can't put large high-res photos into the reports, but we can in SharePoint. You just take all the inspection photos into a zip folder and just drag and drop them into the SharePoint site, and they're there. And that's all that's involved. So yes, you have to upload all photos. Want to take the next question?
Yep. The third and final question from this email. Yeah, from this specific email, I'll answer, and then I think we do have a couple more following this one. And this question is, in the MPP standards and QA checklist specifications, attachment A, minimum installation standards are referenced. Can NYSERDA provide that attachment? Yes, we certainly can. I think probably the best way to do that is we will reference the specific URL to NYSERDA's, to bring you directly to that document on NYSERDA's website. We'll include that for this question in the Q&A document. And as Amy indicated, that Q&A document will be posted underneath this RFQL on NYSERDA's website in probably in the next 1 to 2 weeks.
Drew? Another question that has come in is desk review simply verification via submitted photos, or is there a wider scope of work? Whether it be energy modeling, that verification review, etc. So, Drew, could you cover that?
Yeah. So again, in the case of in the multifamily performance program, desk reviews include both a review of photos submitted for installed measures by the participating provider, as well as other documentation, indicating that something has been installed and the specifications of what was installed. I think we had gone into Brian Cabezas went into a little more detail into, any potential energy modeling. And Brian, I don't know if you want to provide any sort of reiterate what you said before with respect to that, but.
Sure. Yeah, we only have a handful of projects that have the requirement that they have to do energy modeling because they project savings of 40% or greater. It's not necessarily required for this category 1 to review energy models. Essentially the process works where we have an inspection workbook that a energy service provider would fill out. And once they indicate what's been installed, and so they submit that along with the photos, along with the cut sheets, and that's what's part of the desk review. But energy modeling review is generally not required. We do have a technical reviewer that is staff aug that could provide assistance if assistance is needed. They review the energy models with the scope of work and can provide that assistance if that's needed.
Great, thank you, Brian.
Okay, and another question that's come in is, could NYSERDA provide a list of eligible measures for each program? I think that's something we could pull together, certainly. There are in the solicitation, there are sample work scopes that will probably touch on the most frequent measures installed through the program, but we can provide a larger, a comprehensive list of all eligible measures as well.
Yep, yeah, and I think additionally, we have provided in the appendices inspection checklist of each program area. That checklist includes every single measure that could be installed in that given program. So though it's a long document that includes detailed, you know, details of what specifically inspectors are required to look at for each measure, the information is there of what measures that program are eligible to install.
Okay, at this point, I believe we have addressed all the questions we have received. Thus far. Check the email box one more time.
If we also get additional emails in over the next several days, we will include those questions in the FAQ document that we will be publishing alongside this recording.
Well, thank you very much for your attendance today, and we look forward to receiving your proposals and have a wonderful holiday weekend coming up.
So thank you, everyone. And as usual, have a quality day.